Hello, attention please, attention please. Would you mind to move to the front? Anyone who are at the back, and could you please move to the front, please? And don't leave the gap. Yeah, thank you very much. ครับผมGood afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are delighted to welcome you to the Urban Health Conference 2022. 2024. Sorry about that. I am pleased to be here today. I'm Thanapong Chaichana. I'm from the Department of Research and Medical Innovation, Faculty of Medicine, Wachira Hospital, Navamin Tratilad University. The schedule for today is the opening ceremony and the introductory reports, followed by the topic of food safety and food security and health in global. And lastly, the closing ceremony. So let's welcome Assistant Professor Chakrawut Manirit, Doctor of Medicine, Dean of Faculty of Medicine, Wachira Hospital, Navamin Tratilad University for the opening ceremony. Let's welcome.
Deputy Deans, Assistant Deans of the Faculty of Medicine, Wachira Hospital, Dr. Mark Gregory Robson, Participant and Project Working Group. It is with a great pleasure and honor that I preside over the opening ceremony of the Urban Health Knowledge Development Project 2024. This initiative aims to broaden and deepen the understanding of urban health among the faculty personnel, including both academic and professional support staff. The Urban Health Knowledge Department Project 2024 promises to be a significant event as we have invited a distinguished guest speaker from abroad to share his expertise with us, that I would like to take this opportunity to extend a warm welcome to Professor Dr. Mark Gregory Robson, Dean of the School of Graduate Studies at Lautner, the State University of New Jersey, USA. He will deliver a lecture on the topic food safety, food security, and health in global. I trust that the knowledge imparted by this esteemed international expert will be highly beneficial to all participants. I hope you will be able to utilize this knowledge to enhance your concepts and skills for working with multidisciplinary teams and to disseminate this knowledge to other involved parties, thereby fostering a better understanding of urban health issues. This in turn will support our university mission to achieve our goal of being the leader in urban health. I now declare this academic event open and invite Professor Dr. Mark Gregory Robson to deliver his lecture.
Okay. Next, let's welcome Professor Dr. Mark Gregory Robson. Professor Mark Robson's scholarly activities are divided into 4 sections. First is Thai Faculty International Center, and second is the principal investigator of the National Institute of Environmental and Health Science. Third, United States Environmental Protection Agency for Methane to Markets Partnership, the activity that advances methane recovery and the use as a clean energy source. Last, the United States Environmental Protection, the principal investigators of the Office of Atmospheric Programs. Last but not least, he is currently engaged in Project 2921, which involves evaluating the physical and biological availability of pesticides and contaminants in agricultural ecosystem, and Project 3081, which focuses on the impact of agrochemicals on human and environmental health, including mechanisms and mitigation strategies. Actually, most importantly for today, Professor Mark Gregory Robson. Mark Gregory Robson is a distinguished professor at the Department of Plant Biology at Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey. Professor Mark served as a distinguished professor for Rutgers Board of Governors Distinguished Services Professor at the School of Environmental and Biological Sciences, Rutgers University. Professor Mark Robson is a distinguished professor, associate vice provost for graduate education and dean of graduate studies at Rutgers School of Environment and Biological Sciences, and a distinguished professor at Environmental and Occupational Health Science Institute under the Environment and Population Health Biosciences Global Environmental Health, Rutgers, the State University. I am very pleased to welcome you, Professor Mark Gregory Robson, onto the stage.
And thank you so much, Kapun Kap. The most important thing, I always say short bio, but the most important thing today for me, as I am so happy to be here with you, as I was co-advisor to Jasada, to Champu, and to Beer. So I am so proud of 3 of your faculty, and the fact that Jasada has this new role makes me so proud. The dean and I were talking, because we're both deans, you know, and so you should always be kind to your dean, be kind to your Ajahn, because to be dean, you know, is a difficult job, okay? Every day there are people that say, oh, very good, thank you, gang ma. And there are other people that really, not so nice. So for the Dean and I, we are grateful for days like this. We are so grateful to be proud when we see the students that we help advise become leaders in a wonderful school like this. So I'm just so proud of my 3 students and so honored to see you today. So we're going to have a short talk because, you know, it's Friday and we want to keep it short, and it's the afternoon. So we want to make it interesting. I was so grateful that Jasada invited me. I'm here for a couple weeks to bring Rutgers students, undergraduates, to learn about the Thai system for rural healthcare. As Thai people, you should be so proud of the healthcare system you have. It is probably the envy of many parts of the world. Okay, you might not think so sometimes as a Thai person, go, really? No, the answer is yes, Kap. Yes, because everybody in the kingdom has a chance to get some health care. In the United States, no, many people don't have that. So be proud of what you do as Thai public health people, as Thai physicians, as Thai nurses. This is really important, and you should stand very tall and be very happy about the wonderful commitment that you've made to not only the people in the Kingdom of Thailand, but your neighbors as well. You are the example. So today we have a short talk on food safety, food security, and health. And why do we pick that topic? Well, because Jasada said, John, what do you want to talk about? Maybe something like this. And I said, okay, because most of us, let's see, it's 1:25 now. So for about an hour ago, most of us had lunch, right? So most of us im lao, a little bit full. You know, too much food sometimes in Thailand, but it's very delicious. You know, when people say, oh, do you like Thai food? Oh, alright, mak mak. It's very good for me, except sometimes too much. So we're going to talk about food because everybody eats. That's one of the common things that everybody has in the world. We're going to talk about food security because before COVID, we worried about it a little bit. Since COVID, we worry about it a lot. And we're going to talk about what it affects for health and what that means. And so the topic today, food safety, food security, and health. And certainly in a place like Thailand, where so much of the population is directly involved in agricultural production, this is a really important topic. Now, when you look at this topic, it's a very busy topic. As we say, it's got something for everybody. It's like menu at Thai restaurant. You can get anything you want. We can worry about chemistry, we can worry about microbiology, we can worry about physical hazards, allergies, you name it, it's in there. And then also political issues like GMO and the debate about GMO. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And the World Health Organization has a strategy, and we're right in the middle of it. They submitted it 2 years ago in 2022, and they have a strategy for the next 8 years. And so I just picked some important parts of the strategy because in public health and medicine and nursing and general overall policy, these make sense. Think about the first statement they make. Food safety is a primary determinant of public health. We all know that as public health people, don't we? It's a basic human right to have access to good food, okay? But, you know, it's hard to guarantee that right. If people aren't eating healthy, then they can't perform their job, whether they are a surgeon or whether they are, you know, the custodian. Everybody has to feel good and healthy. We know that little kids, if they don't have a good meal in the morning, don't do well in school during the day. We know that elderly who live alone and don't have someone to care for them don't have proper nutrition. They're lonesome, but they don't eat. Eating is a community thing. One of the great joys when I come to Thailand to meet with my former students or even new students is what? You share a meal, okay? You share a meal. It's a communal thing. You share a meal with your family. You share a meal with strangers. It's all good, but it doesn't happen for everybody. And finally, in 2024, it's complicated, right? It's a very difficult thing. We have to make sure the food is safe. The food goes all over the place. You know, we ship food from Thailand to other places. I went to a conference a couple of years ago at Chulalongkorn, and they talked about organic agriculture. And they said that 8% of Thai rice now is grown organically. I said, wow, that's impressive. I said, my Thai, nit noi Thai, and they say, Ajahn, my Thai, nit noi. I can understand, so I can tell when you gossip me. I just can't give a whole talk in Thai. So I said, I go to the grocery store, I never see organic rice. Oh no, Ajahn, we don't sell it to Thai people. Thai people don't want this. We ship it to China, because so many more people in China. So food just doesn't stay in the market. Food is a global thing, and we're going to see that in a minute. So that's an important part of this. The other part is I just want to put one or two things on here. Obviously, you're not going to read the whole slide. And if you were my student giving a presentation, the first thing I would say to you when we rehearsed your talk is too many words on the slide. But I wanted to have three things on here to talk to you about. Is where does this come from? It's part of food systems, it's part of food supply. It can be things like, remember, mad cow disease, although we're health scientists, so we would say bovine spongiform encephalopathy. But it's mad cow disease, easier to say for most people. We can talk about E. coli or hepatitis A that makes its way into the food system. Or we can talk about environmental contaminants like arsenic. Either arsenic on treated seed people consume by mistake, or arsenic like in Vietnam, where so much arsenic in the soil and the water that the rice takes it up. It's complicated. So when you look at what are people doing as far as studying this and testing the food, most of this is 2018 and what we predict for 2025, so next year, okay? And so if you look at this, you can see, okay, most of the time we're looking for what is pathogen, okay? Where are the pathogens? Not big thing, okay? Followed by pesticides, followed by, of course, GMOs. And big debate about GMO, isn't there? Should we do it? Shouldn't we do it? It's political, but there's also a reason. We're going to give an example in a minute. So everybody eats. And here in Thailand, Thai people, good example of the fact that Thai people eat a lot of rice. Farang, not so much. But Thai people, yes. African people, much. South American people, much. European people, nit noi, but North American people, not so much. Do you know that there are 8 billion people in the world? 8 billion people. And this morning when you woke up, there were 250,000 people that weren't here yesterday. Every day about 325,000 show up, people die. Somebody like Ajahn now, jet sip, so use by date very soon. Okay, so about 325,000 people come in, and then 250,000 net. Some people leave. So there are 8 billion people in the world. 4 billion people have rice every day as part of their diet. 4 billion, okay? So you say as a Thai person, that's me, okay? If you were a Vietnam person, Malay person, Chinese person, you say, that's me. But that's a lot of people. This is kind of exciting that as health scientists, right now people live rural, but by 2050, and you'll all be here, okay? By 2050, by the way, there'll be 10 billion people. So that's your problem. I'll be gone, okay? See ya. But you'll still be here in 2050. You have 2 billion extra people that you haven't met yet. They're going to competing for your space in the planet, okay? And what's going to happen is that soon those people are going to move from the rural areas into urban areas. This conference on urban health, I am so proud of this university that you're concentrating on urban health as a focus, because that's what people are going to live. They're going to live in an urban area, whether it's African country, Asian country, United States. People move into the urban area, okay? So when they move into the urban area, what don't you have in urban area? You don't have rice paddy in urban areas. You don't have cornfields in urban areas. You have more people. And sometimes poor people live in slums. 6 of the 11, so more than 50% of the global diseases are related to what you eat. 6 out of 11, okay? More than half. That's pretty amazing, okay? And so our job is to figure out this complicated system to make sure everybody has access to food, but know that people who are nutritionists, nutrition people say they always know this, okay? Food is medicine. And for our nurses, when you go to do home visit and you counsel patients, what do? You say to them, well, tell me what you ate today. Tell me how much you ate. Tell me why you ate this. So we're going to talk about that. Now, if you are graduate students, like these students up here in the front, lots of free stuff on the web. All free in many languages, not so many in Thai, but plenty of things in English in Chinese, in Russian, in French. You know, United Nations has 6 basic languages, but all these are available in multiple languages, and they're free from either Feed the Future or United Nations or World Bank. And everybody has to have access to this. So food safety is everybody's business too. You know, not just wash your hands. We all learned to go back and wash our hands during COVID, didn't we? That was probably, after getting vaccinated, the second most important way to help reduce the spread of COVID. This is a poster from India. I was so excited that Jasada asked me to come today and talk about this, because every June 7 is World Food Safety Day. So happy World Food Safety Day. It's big, so you should have celebration tonight with your friends. You say, what are we celebrating? World Food Safety Day. I'll show you some posters in a minute. And you know, it starts in the rural area when the farmer produces it, and it stays all the way to where it's in the cafeteria here or in your kitchen at home. Now, you say, okay, so we talk about food safety and food security. What's the biggest impact these days? What's going to impact it besides what you and I do as health scientists? Well, climate change, okay? Climate change, agriculture contributes a lot to climate change. The synthetic chemicals we use to produce more food, animal agriculture, you know. If we don't have a lot of beef in Thailand, it's too hot for the cow, and most Asian people don't drink milk because of lactose intolerance. But you know, in other parts of the world, lots of beef. In India and Asia, in India for religious reasons, in Asia for practical reasons, we have more chicken and more pork, you know, so more gai, more moo. But agriculture has a big part of climate change. And some of it is not going to get better unless the farmers have help with the technology. Because the farmer's trying to grow more rice. They're trying to grow more, you know, pork, more chicken, make more eggs. But if you want to start to learn more about this, if you want to pick a special area for health science, think about climate change to learn more. And there are many good books. I'll give you a list of all 25, but I just put my favorite ones on. Some of them are fairly new. Some of them are already 15 years old, okay? So here's where the most hungry people are. A little bit in Thailand, a little bit in the United States, but most of them are on the African continent. You know, the African continent is also the fastest growing place, okay? Obviously, right now, biggest country is China, then India, then United States. By 2030, it's going to be India, China, Indonesia, Nigeria, okay? African, also the youngest population. The dean and I were talking about, when I first started to work in Thailand a long time ago, most of you weren't born, you know, rural Thai family, what, typically 4, 5 kids. Now you go to a rural area, 2, sometimes even less, sometimes 1 kid. Okay, here, here in Africa, family size is very, very large. Right before COVID and right before coup, John started a project in Niger. Average Niger citizen, 15 years old, okay? So you would already be very old man in Niger, and I would be dead many times in Niger. Okay, average, and family size, 8 kids. Okay, it's the most orthodox Islamic part of West Africa. So very large families for religious faith tradition, okay? So that's where the people are going to be. Food costs more since COVID. So I show you, so this is inflation rate for food costs. So I have to pointer for you. Here's Thailand. I like this graphic because Thailand on there. Okay, so Thailand, about 5.7% inflation rate for food. This is 2022 data. So after we finish the talk and we have conversation, you can tell me if you believe this. United States, actually worse, 8.5. During COVID, our food prices got much higher, okay? Worst food inflation, believe it or not, place like Turkey. Turkey, very rural, poor country, okay? So Turkey, then Ethiopia, okay, then Iran, all very poor countries. But you get all the way around the ring here, and Thailand, 5.7, all right? So COVID surprised us, COVID-19. Three places in the world said they didn't have COVID. They lie, big time lie. North Korea said no COVID risk. Okay, John say he has full head of hair then. I mean, it's not true. Everybody had COVID. You know, in 2020, the head economist at the United Nations World Food Program, Mr. Arif Hassan, he's Egyptian economist, and Mr. Hassan said, you know, just with COVID, 130 million more people will be severely hungry. So we all think there's about 1 billion people. Of the 8 billion people, 1 billion severely hungry. In that 1 year, an additional 13%, 130 million people severely hungry. So we're going to talk about what that means. And so now we say, okay, we write a report, global food crisis. Well, that's fine to write a report. What are you going to do about it? It's important because this is the labor force in agriculture. And we look and we see here in Southeast Asia, many people, no surprise to you as Thai health scientists, lots of people involved in agriculture. But look, in places in Africa, that's almost everybody works in agriculture. And you say, okay, so what about the food insecurity risk? How food secure are people? Well, North America, people are pretty good. Europe is better than North America, okay? We're pretty good over here in Thailand, but once again, we get to Africa, people very food insecure. Calorie deficiencies, calorie adequacy. As an old person, I should probably have 1,800 calories a day. For young people, young women, about 2,700 calories. For young men, maybe 3,200 calories. But when you get older, metabolism slower, less calories. But we know in places where people do very hard physical labor that they need more calories, right? Because they have to work hard for their food. As an Ajahn, I like being Ajahn. I grew up on a farm with cows. That's a lot of work. I'm very happy to be professor and dean with students. I come to the office, I sit in my office. I do go to the fitness center to lose some weight. But you know, my job is not hard physically. Some days it's hard mentally, but not physically. You know, if you look at the history of mankind and you go back 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, people consumed over 10,000 calories a day, okay? But they had to catch their food, you know? The food was running, you had to run after the animal to kill it, to eat it. Now you go to Lotus, it's there. You go to Tesco, you know? You go to the grocery store. But in places, there are a lot of places where we know we're gonna need more calories. So what kind of food diseases do we have? We have two kinds. We have food diseases that have agents on them that cause disease. And then we're going to talk in a minute about what happens when you eat the food. So we know the obvious things like bacteria and viruses, parasites, and chemicals. And we know that people have a risk from those. But we also have diseases that happen because of the food. We get things with climate change like not enough food or food that's contaminated. We get things like waterborne, foodborne diseases like diarrhea and cholera, okay? We have vector-borne diseases from climate change influenced by food production, like malaria and dengue. We know dengue well here in the kingdom. And of course, from the production where we have increased PM 2.5, increased carbon release, we have indoor air pollution, we have asthma, we have allergies. You know what's interesting is that diarrhea and malaria still cause lots and lots of diseases. So some of you I had the privilege to talk to when I visited last year at the same time in June. Jasada is very kind to invite me when I come for this. And so maybe some of you heard the story last time, but some of you it's a new story. So many years ago, I gave a talk in Africa, in Ghana. That's a very poor country in West Africa. Very nice people, very poor country. And so I'm giving a talk at their medical school, and they invite me to talk about risk assessment. As in my very generous introduction by my colleague, I appreciate his kind words, talk about risk assessment. I have a textbook on risk assessment. And so they said, Dr. Mark, please talk about 1 in a million risk. Some of you learn about that, you know, 1 in a million risk, meaning that there's one adverse outcome for every million events. I said, really? Is that what you want me to talk about in Africa? They said, yes. And you know, you have to be very careful because it's a poor place. You don't want to offend anybody. I said, okay. I said, maybe we should talk something else. They said, absolutely not. We want, as African country, we want to increase our ability to have the same standards and the same safety as people in the West. So come talk about 1 in a million risk. So I gave a slideshow like this, boom, boom, boom. Finish, pediatrician in the very back row. And before I finished, people polite little clap. And I said, are there any questions? Her hand shot up and she jumped out of the seat. And so remember, I talked about 1 risk per million. And with a very loud voice, thank you, Dr. Robson, for your presentation. I am a pediatrician in a rural area where I practice medicine. 1 in 5 children will die of diarrheal disease before they're age 8. Dr. Robson, where I practice medicine, 1 in 5 children will die of malaria before they're age 8. Dr. Robson, that's 2 in 5, which is 4 in 10, which is 400,000 in a million. That's a real risk. For you to come here and talk about 1 in a million is ridiculous. It makes no sense. I don't know why you came to give this talk. And she sat down. So you have to say, thank you very much. What do I do now? So I said, yes, doctor, thank you. I appreciate your comment. And I gave her the logic, but the doctor was right. She's a pediatrician every day to treat sick kids. That's a real risk. 1 in a million risk, I don't know what that means. Do you? Okay, we got, 70 million citizens in Thailand? Does that mean that we're going to have 70 people in the kingdom that get sick from something and the other 995,000 people okay? No. Okay, so, what are we going to do? So we have to put the risk in perspective. Here's where it becomes our job as public health, okay? Food, good food, healthy food. I always am impressed. I said at the lunch, we had very nice lunch before this. My American students, the first thing they said after 1 week here is, oh, professor, the food tastes better. Of course, I gamed my thing a little bit. First day you give them mango sticky rice, everybody likes that, so you say, oh, food is so good in Thailand. You say, yeah. Then you give them, next day you give them chili peppers, you watch them, all I got. But think about it, Thai food most of the time is not processed, all right? It's fresh food, it comes from the market. So Parachart, for her PhD work at Chula, she looked at what risks were in the marketplace, okay? So we have reduction in all these diseases because we have healthier food. But think about type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes continues to increase here in Thailand. Same in US. In US, the number goes way up. But Thailand, the number is not good either, okay? And when you go out into the community, what's the first thing you notice when you meet people? Oh, pompoi, okay? And people like here in Bangkok, particular, Krispy Kreme donuts, So Krispy Kreme donut, American company, they were almost broke because nobody the government goes, oh, you don't want to eat this is bad for you. So they stopped selling them in the United States. What do? They sell them in Thailand, they sell them in Malaysia, they sell them in Singapore, okay? And Thai people, the queue goes from here to the end of the room. One time I saw a big line, I said, I hope that isn't to get into the Paragon, because I wanted to do some shopping. And I said, oh no, this is only line for Krispy Kreme. I said, well, because I not go there. But then you say, why is type 2 diabetes? Why is hypertension? Krispy Kreme, McDonald's, Burger King, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Pizza Hut, Starbucks. First thing American students said, I give them a slide, they go, oh, Dr. Robson, how different is Thailand? I said, it's very different, but don't worry, you'll think you're home. And then I show them pictures from MBK, Starbucks, McDonald's. I said, you think you're home, just it's harder to read the sign. But look at these. These are things that we have all over the world. But we have an opportunity as health scientists to use food as prevention. Food is medicine. In some wealthy parts of the United States, it's always sad that it's the real rich people. So poor people, no. But richer people, they can go to a nutritionist and the doctor or the nurse will say, okay, here's your prescription. They will make grocery list. Now, when I first heard this, I go, man, that's silly. And I kind of looked at that. But then I thought about it. It's a good idea. So I say to you, okay, when you go shopping, you buy chicken, not beef. You buy fresh vegetables, not in a can. You buy fresh fruit, not ice cream. not cake, not soda. And so food is nutrition, and prevention is a good thing. When we get it wrong, and this is from 2021 data, global data, okay, from the World Bank, there are 45 million kids under 5 that are wasted. They just don't have enough strength, you know that. Too thin for their height. Our nurses know that, particularly when they see kids in the clinic. About 150 million are stunted. Mama is stunted, mama gets pregnant, mama has baby, baby is stunted. It's cyclical. And about 40 million kids under 5 now are overweight. Most amazing thing, I had an Egyptian PhD student work with me in the city that the university's in, New Brunswick, and we worked with a liver doctor. Okay, so the liver doctor, graduate student, and me. We looked at non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Some of you know non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. When you say fatty liver disease in US, you think the patient would be me. Old, white, smoke, drink. I don't smoke. I do drink, but I don't smoke. And you say, okay, this is typical. We had 9 and 10-year-old boys with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Why? Because they eat McDonald's. McDonald's is cheaper than healthy meal, okay? If mom needs calories, if you got a kid that says, oh, I'm hungry, you quickly give them McDonald's because it's fast and it's quick. It's not healthy. So we have this global problem. Why don't we go up? There we go. Okay, so this is interesting. So all the experts say, what's recommended? There's no sugar recommended, but this is how much sugar people have per day. Milk, we get about the right milk. Protein, we recommend this much. People don't have enough protein. People don't, the blue is what people really consume. The orange is what we should have. So good news is no good news. Way too much sugar, nobody says sugar is good. Milk, about right. Protein, low. Oils and fats, low. Vegetables and fruits, very low. Whole grains, we exceed. So it's not a good thing, okay? Our government in US, this is not global, this is my government. My government makes this little diagram for people and say, okay, this is what your plate should look like for one day. But the government doesn't do the right thing. They give farmers money for cotton. You don't eat cotton, okay? They give them money for tobacco. You certainly don't encourage tobacco use. Oils, we don't say to anybody you should have oils. So this is where US government spends their money, but this is what US government says people should do. Not a good idea. So now let's finish the last part of the talk. Don't worry, we're almost done. We finished the last part of the talk with how did this come together with COVID and the food security part. COVID changed the whole world, didn't it? All of a sudden, you started to work remotely, so did I. All of a sudden, those of you that are clinicians, you didn't see patients, you saw them online, or you couldn't have access to them because of the restrictions. The global workforce, food workforce, shut down, okay? So here are places where people didn't get enough to eat, and COVID made it much worse. This is the hunger map in 2019 when COVID started. Look at this. This is the increase in the number of people that are going to be hungry because of coronavirus. These are already the forecast for, these are food insecure, acutely food insecure, not a little bit hungry, really hungry. In other words, people starving. It doubled from 2019 to 2020, okay? So let's give 2 examples. Let's look at Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, small African country, about 15 million people, very bad politics, lots of effect from climate change, high temperature. And so in 2019, they had 3.5 million hungry people out of 15 million. By 2020, okay, just 4 months later, December 2019 to March 2020, it tripled to like almost 9 million people. Because with COVID, nobody could grow any food. There was no market. Nobody could transport. Look at unemployment. Unemployment was about 11%, which isn't very good. It went to 90%. If you don't have a job, you can't have food, you don't have money. And COVID did this to Zimbabwe people, okay? So this is African market. Sometimes you go to the market here in Thailand, even if you're in the rural, Obviously here in Bangkok, we're a big urban center, and you know, if you close your eyes, you say, okay, Bangkok, New York, Tokyo, same. And it is, you know, they all have about the same number of people. Tokyo's a little bit bigger, but New York and Bangkok about the same. Big billboards, big shopping, plenty of things to eat, hungry people, but they hide. When you go to the rural in US, in Africa, in Thailand, we see them. So this is a market. I took this picture in Liberia. I had USAID project. This is the market. A little bit of sugarcane, some squash, some plantains and some bananas, and lots of peppers and some maize. That's it. That's the market. And this is in good times, okay? In the middle of all of the COVID, in parts of Africa, this is in Kenya in 2020, so at the height of COVID for African people, they had locust outbreak, grasshopper, you know, locust is grasshopper. Some of you, if you follow Christian tradition, most Thai people, Buddhist tradition, or some of the Muslim tradition, but if you follow Christian tradition, you know the Bible story in Old Testament talks about God set 7 plagues on the Egyptian Pharaoh to release the Israelite people, the Jewish people. And God would send a plague, and Pharaoh said no. Finally, God had a plague where the firstborn boy in the Bible story dies, and he said, okay, you win, goodbye. But one of the first ones was locust. But this is a real picture. Locust ate all the leaves on the trees, all the grass. I mean, and so somebody, one of the undergraduates in my class go, yeah, but they didn't eat people. I said, no, they're bugs. They ate all the vegetation. The vegetation is what people eat. The vegetation is what the cows and the chickens and the pigs eat. So then people had no food. So during COVID, on top of everything else, we had those kind of problems. Global food prices they went up in 2008 and 2010 when we had worldwide recession, okay? And they continue to impact as food prices go up, the number of hungry people go up. In some countries, so here let's look at 5 important things: maize, which is corn, rice, wheat, green pea, and millet, okay? In some places, like Uganda, prices went up over 15%. If you are already a poor person and your food price goes up 15%, you're really in trouble, aren't you? Interestingly, a place like Burundi, which is not a wealthy place, food prices went down a little bit or stayed the same. Rwanda, some went up, some went down. But in Uganda, everything went up. Not good. Let's go to Thailand. This is something you know real well. Now this is Thai rice, Thai white rice. And you know Thai white rice goes up and down. And there's lots of reasons for that. There's a seasonality. There's a political component that we are not going to try to explain because it's very complicated. As Thai people, you know it real well. As Farang, I know it too. But look so let's pretend for a minute we're not running for parliament. Let's just look what happens when COVID came along. Thai white rice went way up in US dollars from about $425 per ton to almost $600 US per ton. So just because of COVID in the marketplace, okay? Most things, the prices like rice, which people rely on, this is global now, and wheat, which people rely on, went up. The other things went down because people didn't have any money. 4% increase in meat and poultry production, okay? Decline in restaurants, people did not go out. People forget what the food chain is. They hear the word supply chain. During COVID, people said, oh, you know, supply chain was disrupted. So Jasada knows, remember Tant, who was your classmate, Jasada, he, Burmese boy, and we were looking at the peanut farmers in Myanmar, and this is the supply chain. It's not a big factory at Mataput. It's a couple people sorting peanuts by hand, okay, in Magwe, Myanmar. This is the supply chain. When people get hungry and food's insecure, they move. You know, for every 1 increase in food insecurity and hungry people, you get almost 2% increase in migration. If you live in a poor place in Africa, there's no food, what do? You pick up your family, you go someplace else. So 1% increase in food price, 2% migration. Famines and pandemics cause both the physical and economic access to food to be limited. all right? And so the other thing we have to remember is who bears the burden. Now, as Thai people, you should be very proud that gender bias in food production is manageable. There are many women farmers like there are many male farmers. When you go to Africa, you see two males in this picture, one real old white guy and one little bitty guy. Everybody else was a woman. 90% of the farming done in Africa is done by women, okay? All done by women. They doing all the work. Little story. So the lady sitting next to me, and Niger people speak French, by the way. I only speak a little French, but I understood what she was saying. She told me that she asked me my age, and when I took this picture, I was 67. I said, I am 67. She goes, I am 71. I am available for marriage. I am a very good worker. I am very strong. And then she smiled and said, I have all my teeth. So I figured this was a marriage proposal. So I thanked her and told her I would get back to her with an answer and left very quickly. But, you know, the women are doing all the work, okay? When poor people suffer from food security, remember, poor people spend more on their food than other people. Their main production factor is their physical labor. They work hard. And people who are poor, people who are women, children, and immigrants are more affected. Last little part of that, we're going to talk about kids and food security. This picture is from Korat here in the kingdom, okay? This little boy is 6. He's a beautiful little boy. Some of you know about Korat and the big landfill and the communities that live on the landfill. One of Jasada, I guess maybe not Jasada's, but Parachart, your classmate, Piman, studied the landfill people in Korat. So this little boy always reminds me about what it's like to be poor, hardworking little boy. Okay, he lives on that landfill in Korat. Okay, during COVID, we had a very high percentage of kids in over, there's 190 countries in the world. In 55 of these countries, they analyzed the data and they found that the number of kids who were hungry went way up, mostly because of economic shocks and food insecurity and political conflict, okay? So COVID-19 meant that lots and lots of kids, almost 17 million additional, not food. We talked about stunting before. In the world, 1 in 4 kids are stunted, okay? So we close with this idea that food security is your job and my job. Food education is your job and my job. Whether you are a surgeon like our dean, or whether you are a public health scientist like me, you are a nurse in the clinic, you are a department head here at the medical school, everybody should say to somebody, we should eat healthier, we should have access to food. And we should probably assume that COVID-19 problem is gonna be with us for the rest of our lives now, okay? Some people say, oh my God, we've never had this before. Oh no. If you are a public health historian, you know we've had this many times. In 541, if you use Western calendar, we had the Justinianic plague, okay? And so here is plague from 541 AD. So that's about 1,500 years ago. We had plague, just like COVID, but different cause, okay? In the period during the Black Plague, okay, in Europe, same thing. Remember it was the flea on the rat that transmitted the Great Black Death, all right, and millions of people died. But then it took a long time. It took 2 years for the plague to cross from the middle of Europe to the coast, 2 years. In COVID-19, 13 hours to go from Wuhan to New York, 13 hours to go on an airplane with somebody sick. Here, 2 years, all right? The great Spanish flu in the 1900s. This is kind of interesting. These are 2 Irish cities. And you can see there were 3 waves of this. So Belfast is in Northern Ireland and Dublin is in the Republic of Ireland. And you can see that in both places it tracked 3 times we had a plague. So today we celebrate Food Safety Day. We talk about the importance of good food. We talk about how good food leads to good health. We talk about a lack of good food means, see, here's a happy planet. A lack of good food means that people are not going to be able to do their work. People are not going to be able to study in school. People are not going to stay in one place. So I wish you a very happy World Food Safety Day. And I want you to think about the fact that as, especially our students in the room, that you are the people, like these two beautiful little girls. This is in the marketplace in Tawa in Niger. This is the future, okay? Like I said to you at the beginning of the talk, in a few years, we have 10 billion people, very crowded, all right? In a few years, most of the people on the planet will live in urban areas. So Bangkok will get bigger, you know? So this is my 87th trip to Bangkok, 87 times. So by the way, when I retire, I'm going to open tourist business for Farang, because I have probably seen the reclining Buddha and the Emerald Buddha and toured the Grand Palace more than any Thai person, because every year when I come with my class or when I come to teach my students, we do the tourist. I just have to improve my Thai skills. So some of you can be my tutor. But the deal is that for your future, you say, well, I'm here in Thailand. I'm studying public health. I'm practicing medicine. I'm practicing nursing at this medical school. Yes, you are. But it's not just here. Isn't that? COVID taught us that. You know, before you watch the news and you say, oh, that's some place I never heard of. It's a country I can't even pronounce, you know? You can say US, I can say Thailand, but sometimes you see a country in the middle of Africa or the middle of Eastern European country, you go, I don't even know where that is on the map. Now everybody knows, all right? We have TikTok, we have, you know, all sorts of podcasts, and you are a global citizen. As you walk through Bangkok, you see people from everywhere. You go through Suvarnabhumi Airport, it's not just Thai people and a few Westerners, it's everybody. So everybody is your patient, everybody is your partner, everybody is your problem. So I want you to think about that in 2024, especially for people beginning their career. Public health, when I trained, was very different. You know, and when I first started to teach as an Ajahn, we always say, well, there's about 1 billion people on the planet that don't have enough to eat, malnourished. And strangely, 40 years later, we still say, well, there's about 1 billion people that don't have enough to eat. But now we have this new number of people. We say, wow, we also have 2 billion people that have too many calories. We watch type 2 diabetes go up like this. We watch stroke and heart attacks increase. Starting in COVID, you know, people's life expectancy, whether you're in poorest country in Africa or middle income country like Thailand or, you know, Western European country like US, where everybody number keeps going up, all in, stop going up. Life expectancy, bless you. Life expectancy stopped going up. Why? Well, part of it is, you know, you can only live so long. And part of it is that some of the things we're doing are causing it to go this way. You know, if you look at data, and some of us that are a little bit older remember, and it's harder for me to say this because I end up being the oldest person in the room most of the time now. When I used to say it, I'd look for somebody old too. Now nobody's old like me. But you know, I was born before polio vaccine. But remember, for some of you, we took a little polio vaccine on a sugar cube. Okay, now we don't talk about polio. We don't vaccinate anymore for smallpox. We don't talk about those things. So as we decrease the infectious diseases, the communicable diseases that are killing us, we're increasing the non-communicable diseases. So you have a big job. Thank you for staying awake. I promised you I would end in less than an hour. I kept my promise. I wish you a good weekend. We might take 1 or 2 questions if Jasada says okay. And then I just say thank you very much for your time. Kapun kap kap.
Next is the closing ceremonies. We would like to hello. Okay, anyone on the floor have any questions, please?
Oh, okay. One question, sir. I wonder why Thailand has less food production than the Netherlands. We have a bigger number of labor, bigger land mass, and I wonder why we produce less food. In your opinion, what do you think about this?
That's an excellent question, and so I think I know part of the answer. And just like in my country, just like in U.S., some of it is how government influences the farmers' thoughts and production. Some of it is how government maintains the prices. And some of it is, I think you look at rice as a good example. You know, in 1990s, Thailand was the world's leading exporter of rice. Now, obviously, Chinese people make more rice because there's a lot more Chinese people, okay? There's 1.4 billion Chinese people, there's 70 million Thai people. But Thailand sent a lot of the rice to China for export. Now, number one exporter is Vietnam. So some of it was Vietnam rice became cheaper, and Vietnam government closer with Chinese government. So I'm not sure. I think the other thing is that, and this is spoken as a foreigner. Now remember, I'm not a Thai citizen, so sometimes my opinion is not as informed as it should be. So I realize that. But you know, I think about, so I've been working a lot looking at rice farmers and neurological development in kids and pesticide safety in rice farmers. You know, we've been measuring cholinesterase in Thai farmers for 30 years now, okay? And when I used to drive to Rangsit, as a good example, we get in the car, we leave Chula, and maybe half an hour it becomes rice paddy. Get to Rangsit, it's all rice paddy. Now you leave Chula, and you never felt you left Bangkok. You're on the highway, gas station, Amazon to go get coffee, more stores. So I think part of it is the policy of the government isn't encouraging Thai farmers to do that. And the other thing, when you go visit Thai farmer, and again, you know, I have to have a translator, but you talk to them, and farmers, like I grew up on a farm. My father was farmer, his father was farmer, his father was farmer. You get the idea, always farmer, farmer, farmer. My brother was farmer. I was the eldest to go to school. Now when you talk to farmer does not want his son or daughter to be farmer. They can get a job at industrial estate because they built industrial estate on the best paddy field, the most productive land in the kingdom, wonderful agricultural soil, high yield for rice. They put industrial estate. Now the farm boy says, I can work there, not have to work so hard, well, here in Bangkok we don't have water buffalo, but you know, if you go up into Kankan, still many water buffalo, okay? I mean, you know, water buffalo, very mean. You ever meet a water buffalo? You come up there, they look like that, you go, okay, I leave, bye, Mr. Buffalo, usually Mrs. Buffalo, leave quickly. It's hard work. So I think young Thai, even young rural Thai people who don't have education like you and me, they don't want to farm. So there's not incentive for young Thai to be on the farm. There's not incentive for better agricultural price. So, you know, I showed you a picture in Korat. So this was amazing to me. So, you know, Piman, one of our PhD students at Chula, he studied the Korat people. Lots of people study Korat people, but he was ours. And so I talked to the dumb people and say, well, I'm supposed to do what? Okay. We talked to the dumb people and say, why do you want to be landfill scavenger? It just seems like, I said, oh, John, I was farmer, and farmer pay much less. I get, if you convert the dollars, which I'd have to, you know, because baht doesn't always make sense to me. So maybe 6 baht a day to be farmer, 6 US to be farmer, but 9 US to be landfill scavenger. You make more money on the landfill, even though it's hard work. Interestingly, they did job satisfaction question for landfill people. 96% of landfill people like their job. I'm terrified. Flies, bad smell. People, oh, this is a good job. And when you do a health complaint, guess what? Number 1 health complaint for a landfill scavenger, conjunctivitis, eye infection. Number 2, lower back pain from pick up the trash. Number 3, contact dermatitis. But 96%. So I think that, and that's why it makes no sense to me whether you're growing maize in non-province or you're growing chili and Ubon Ratchathani, everybody moving away from the farm. I think Thailand's going to lose its advantage. So that's a foreigner's answer to a very Thai question. Why do you think? What's your answer to that question? Your answer better than John's. What do you think?
I think we can raise the agricultural price too high because we have many poor people here. So it's keep a low price, and I think we do not adapt a technology like agricultural technology to do the farming things. Yeah, that's my question.
You just mentioned something really important when you talked about the technology. So much of what happens in Thailand become very high tech, you know? Lots of places are wireless, lots of interesting technology in factories. Farmer still has hand tractor or up in Konkan, water buffalo. Same technology 2,000 years ago. All right. Good news is, I asked the Dean of Agriculture at Konkan, I said, John, I noticed so many water buffalo, even I think more this time than last time. He goes, oh, Ajahn Mark, you are very smart. I said, not really. But he said, because petrol got so expensive, more farmers keep the buffalo. He said, buffalo provide milk, buffalo dung, not need repair, and is also food source. So I think, yeah, agriculture is a sector in the kingdom where technology has not entered like so much of the rest of the kingdom. So I think you're absolutely right. But thank you for a good question. We take one more question, then when we let you out for end of day. Class dismissed. Anybody have one more question? You have. Okay, Kap. Before you ask questions, I have to tell you something cute. So I tell you what we do in US. So when we have outside visitor, I have my students, I give 3 or 4, we plant questions. I'm sure that Thai people do the same. So I say, we have a person from far away. If nobody asks a question, you're going to ask this question. And they go, why do I have to? I said, because I am your professor. So I did not give him this question to ask. This is honest question. You were honest question, which I appreciate. What's your honest question?
Sorry for that. Okay, right now we use a lot of plastic in our food manufacturer, right? And do you have any problem about the microplastic in the food disease, from your opinion?
That is such a good question. Thank you for that good question. That is such a good question. Yes, and 3 things about that. So as you know, microplastic, like many things in life, microplastic was going to be a good idea. It really was. People who came up with this idea, they were good people. They weren't bad people. Think about it. The first people to do microplastic were cosmetic people. And the advertisement is, oh, microbeads, to clean your skin for your hair. Well, if you have hair. So for me, doesn't matter. But microplastic was supposed to be a good thing. Now all of a sudden, when they catch fish for fish consumption, the microplastic small, it gets in the gill. And so when you cook the fish, microplastic in the fish, so people are consuming microplastics in the diet. Second thing, it can't, something this intimate in the ecosystem cannot be good for everybody, okay? They actually detect microplastics in Asian people and North American people, even in the bloodstream, okay, because it's circulating. So, I mean, microplastic, now the government's, oh, we gotta ban this. But think about it, 10 years ago, oh, this was a good idea. Now, oh, it's not a good idea, So microplastics are universal. We use them in industrial purposes, in cosmetics, and agriculture itself. No, we're in big trouble with microplastics. But if you're old like a John Mark and you stay around, the idea that was good eventually comes back not so good. Think about the people who invented DDT, okay? Some of you at least know the letters DDT, fluorodichloropentane, okay, ethylene rather. DDT was insecticide, organochlorine, very low acute toxicity, very persistent, but is endocrine disruptor. And people used it after the Second World War. This week, In France, they acknowledged just yesterday 80 years since World War II invasion on what they call D-Day, and they defeated the Germans and the Italians. And people who were in prison camps, they dusted them with DDT as public health perspective. When the war ended, farmers used DDT for crops. They said, wow, this is wonderful, it's magic, it's a silver bullet. Housewives sprayed the crib for baby to keep away mosquito. Here in Southeast Asia, both malaria and dengue, millions of pounds, Thai government, Vietnam government sprayed. We think DDT is miracle drug. In the 1960s, we go, uh-oh, this was a bad thing. So chlorofluorocarbon, you might hear that word, that was refrigerant. We said we're gonna be efficient for refrigeration, and we're gonna use chlorofluorocarbons. And then they found out that they were causing big hole in the ozone layer. Good idea? Not good idea. DDT, good idea? Not good idea. Microplastics, now we know, not good idea. So I think, yes, the short answer to your question is, I think we're going to be stuck for another 10 years to get the microplastics out, but we don't have alternative. You know, that's the problem. If you're that pediatrician with the story I told in the middle of my talk, and you have kids with malaria, are you going to spray for mosquito? Or are you going to be like somebody in Europe or North America where you don't have malaria? You know, we don't have malaria in the United States. We haven't had it since the 1915s, so over 100 years. But Africa, everybody's got malaria. So, you know, how do you fix it? So microplastics are one of those many things that we have to fix. Think about the traffic in Bangkok. We'll end with this story, then we let everybody go. So think about, some of you drive, some of you don't. But you know, when I first come to Thailand over 30 years ago, there weren't that many cars. Then the government said, you know, people would give good price for a new car. Now there's lots of new cars. You have a Honda, you have a Toyota, and now Tesla and Mercedes, electric. You know, yeah, Tesla, lots of Tesla. But the idea was government. So the good news is new cars, better pollution control, but the traffic is wild. Okay, traffic is wild. But the idea was to have more people have car ownership because it's a symbol of, you know, better wealth. Thailand went from low middle income country to middle income country. Thai people should be proud of that. But with that came, you know, 2 hours extra for the commute, okay? When I first came to Thailand, the whole country was served by Don Mueang Airport. Any of you fly out of DM, you know, it's very tiny. Fine to take Air Asia to Chiang Rai, but certainly not going to take a flight out of there to Japan or to New York or to London, okay? So progress comes with a price, and microplastics are one of those parts of progress that's very expensive. So as we say, when I finish my class dismissed. Thank you so much.
Okay, I would like to invite Assistant Professor Dr. Suthi Thavi Pansan, the Doctor of Medicine and the Deputy Dean of Faculty of Medicine, Wachira Hospital, Navamintra Thiraj University for the closing ceremony. Let's welcome Dr. Suthi Thavi Pansan.
Yeah, so first of all, I would like to say thank you, Professor Mark Gregory Robson. I think we had in this room and some people on the meeting also. They also get some good experience about your talk. You have the very high knowledge in your field, and especially you have the very funny lecture. I love that so much. And lastly, I would like to have you give your hand to our professor, our guest professor. Thank you so much, and please come again.
Okay, the next is the appreciations. Dr. Robson, could you please come to the front of the stage for the appreciation, please? Okay. 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 And the next one we will do the photo group together. Dr. Robson. Yeah. Okay. I think everyone move to the front and go to the middle. Yeah. Excuse me, anyone can't leave not right now because you have to do QR evaluation for the talk first. Yeah. Once you has been done, you can leave the room now. Thank you very much.